Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about the Year of the Rabbit happening from January 22nd, 2023 until February 10th of 2024. I'm coming on to make another installment in the Chinese astrology series, which I have been doing. It is very enjoyable to make these videos because it's really fun to connect with different systems and different ways that have both similarities and differences to other systems that we've been using. I enjoy looking at the Chinese perspective and using some of the ancient Chinese systems and comparing those to others as well. So yes, in this video, I'm going to be talking about my own intuitive messages about this 2023 Year of the Rabbit. And then I'm going to talk about some timelines and archetypes that I feel within the year. So let's dive into it, everyone. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button below, turn on those bell notifications, and this channel is also on Patreon, which I will link below as well. So let's talk about Year of the Rabbit. So first of all, traditionally, after I did a bit of research, first of all, it's the fourth sign in the Chinese zodiac, so we can, of course, correlate that somewhat to the sign of Cancer in Western astrology. And there are differences and also similarities. Some of the similarities that I was seeing between Cancer and Rabbit is that it has a lot to do with safety. It has a lot to do with protection and being also strong within a sense of home. The way in which like walls or a shell protect one from the elements. One of the ways that it's different, though, is that Cancer is a cardinal sign in the Western system, and that makes Cancer much more of a go-getter. Rabbit, on the other hand, while it does have a small amount of that go-getting outward energy that Cancer has, it's a bit less, and it's more cautious and more reserved. Of course, Cancer is also cautious and reserved. There's a similarity, but I would just say that Rabbit in the Chinese system, from my own research, seems to be slightly even more tied to a sense of safety and continuity and security, even than Cancer. So that is one of the ways that it's different. Another way that it's different from the sign of Cancer is that Rabbit, of course, is a forest animal, okay? Whereas Cancer is a sea animal. It also means that this archetype in the Chinese system, the archetype of Rabbit, has more to do with forest nature, environment, the wood element, the earth element, whereas Cancer has more to do with the water element. However, of course, we are indeed in a water rabbit year, so it's probably the most Cancerian rabbit year that we've had in a while. Of course, the previous years of Rabbit were 1999 and 2011, so it will be nice to maybe look back to those years to get some context for what this year may be like. Traditionally, the Year of the Rabbit has a lot to do with peace, prosperity, fortune, patience, and caution. So that will mean that a lot of 2023 has to do with new parameters in our life, what we don't do anymore, what are the limits to our spending. It's kind of a Saturnian energy, even more so than the sign of Cancer is in the Western system. I feel that the Rabbit energy is a lot about setting limits, setting parameters, setting budgets, setting also very condensed systems, gridded systems, so like getting things on grid paper, blueprinting, and creating very kind of like predictable systems. So the risk tolerance goes down a little bit with Rabbit as compared to Year of the Tiger. Also, perhaps some of the willingness to splurge goes down with Rabbit. Also, there's a major sense of like putting the finger to the wind and understanding which direction things are going. That's the most important thing coming to me intuitively about Year of the Rabbit in 2023, the water rabbit. It's about getting a sense or an intuition of which way the wind is blowing, which way the current is going, so that we're not working upstream and so that we're not going against the wind. As you would probably see coming from 21 and 22, that there was a strong sense of going against or opposing something. And when we come into 2023, there should be, if you've been working well with the energy, there should be an accomplishment or there should be something that very finely demarcates the time between Year of the Tiger and the time of Year of the Rabbit. So between December of 2022 and probably like February or March of 2023, you should see some type of major shift in life status. So this can be marriage, this can be death, this can be children. This can be a relationship starting or ending, a move. It's very Six of Swords with it being water rabbit. And I'll put Six of Swords up onto the screen. That's one of the main archetypes that I feel for this year. And I'll talk about some other archetypes as well. But there is definitely a feeling of change, of moving, of going from one place to another, of taking on new mindsets, new philosophies. And there's also a faith context to this rabbit. There isn't always, but the water rabbit specifically, and being that we have Saturn moving into Pisces in 2023, indicates more of a framework of the faith. So religion, okay? I predict, not, because religion is already such a big thing. It's not even a growth of religion, but maybe it's a legalization or maybe legality as it relates to religion. Maybe this is like merging of church and state in certain places around the world. I mean, that would be a mundane thing. Less division between church and state, or just like morality, themes of faith, themes mixing perhaps with legal systems or mixing with more secular systems. So that of course is a whole thing to unpackage, but I don't really want to make this a global dynamics video. I want to make this more about the personal situation, which for people at a micro level, that has to do with the merging of their own ethereal life with some of the more realistic material experiences. So starting to attach more of a spiritual connotation, maybe to a very real thing in your life, like your job or your house or your holdings or something, which isn't always bad, certainly not. But I do feel that there can also be one of the problems of Year of the Rabbit is taking on too much of an attachment grid, or taking on too much of a kind of like spiritual attachment to things. So hoarding with Year of the Rabbit, absolutely, also with the sign of Cancer. Being attached to possessions, materialism, absolutely could be at a high. With Year of the Rabbit, also savings, okay, saving frantically, frugality in shadow, greed. Also envy is very high during this particular Year of the Rabbit. It's not that rabbit itself increases envy, but with the context of the other placements, Pluto on the anaretic degree of Capricorn as we move into rabbit year, alongside the midway Uranus in Taurus, North Node in Taurus, makes this rabbit year charged very spiritually with themes of money, themes of material, themes of land, property, diet, also food. Food is a big thing with Year of the Rabbit. Also, I've had many requests on my Patreon page to start talking about food. So I will be starting to do that over there. Definitely check out the Patreon page, but some of that will also be here as well. But food, yeah, just as a, I suppose, a validation of that, many of my subscribers have been coming to me wanting to understand more about food, wanting to understand more about the food supply, wanting to understand more about sources of food, and also the spiritual relationship that people have with food and how they relate to food. So that's going to be coming up for everyone. Strictly question the source of your food supply this year. I want you guys to do that because you would be shocked, especially if you're someone who's a busy bee, okay? Someone who perhaps lives in the city and has like a full-time job and is maybe very independent, who might just stop at any restaurant or stop at any fast food place just to get it done. We need a complete inversion, you all, in 2023 about priorities regarding food. This is elsewhere in the sky, Uranus and Taurus, Pluto changing sign to Aquarius, plastic food, scary. Also North Node in Taurus, of course. Even the way that Neptune is getting laid into Pisces, the emotional connection, the way that food is like an escape for some people, definitely a prevalence of eating disorders, yes, and things like that because of beauty standards. And but it's even like coming in more creative ways now, not just beauty standards, but like the way that we feel when we eat and what importance we place on food in our daily life. The rabbit, okay, is like vegetarian, right? It does not eat meat. It also just loves any kind of like leafy vegetables and fruits as well. So definitely, I think that there is a case for vegetarianism here. Not for everybody, of course, but I would definitely be incorporating more foods that are just like raw, that you can eat raw, but look into how those are cleaned, or look into also Are those organic? Where are those from? Because I'm seeing maybe some problems there as well. So there will just need, for most people, not everyone, because some people are already like on this, but for most people, there is going to need to be a lot more priority placed on what you're eating, okay? Especially if you've identified a health problem, if you've identified also like anything with health, like specifically things that you can't ignore, okay? So these aren't just like small things, like it could be like a sudden weight gain, sudden weight loss, skin conditions, autoimmune diseases. I think that a lot of it has to do with food and when we're eating. And also, if you notice in the collective right now, the food thing is very low on the list of priorities. It's like, where's my degree? Where's my paycheck? Where's my career aspiration? Where is my material? Where are my clothing? What styles am I wearing? What about the food, y'all? What about the food? So keep asking yourself this year, if you can even like make a screensaver on your smartphone, what about the food, question mark. I think that that will be helpful because we need to be faced with it and we need to not delegate it to the bottom of our hierarchy of priorities. Okay, moving on. Predators and prey. That's another big thing about Year of the Rabbit. Because the rabbit, of course, is very low on the food chain. So rabbit is a prey animal. It is vegetarian, and it is preyed on by a lot of things. So themes of vulnerability, protection, safety, security are paramount in 2023. Not to worry any of you, because I think that I've been getting those signals since 2021, since Ox year, to like really secure up and to get boundaries in order. And there should be something from 2021, maybe a ball that you've started rolling or something that you can look back to there that already has a foundation for you about like security concerns. You know, for example, for me, it's like identity insurance, making sure I'm changing the passwords, making sure that also like I'm not sharing keys with people. These are just very mundane, like small things that we can do. Also making sure that I'm never out of my mind. Okay, so I don't drink. I have a no alcohol policy. Making sure, because that's a state of vulnerability where you can be preyed upon as well. It's not just the obvious things, you all. So especially things like spying, okay, apps on the phone, the IP address, having your phones or devices connected to public Wi-Fi systems. Lots of things. But try to think creatively, because with Pluto moving into Aquarius, there's a feeling of like a new form of power emerging in the technological digital realm. So because it's so Wild West and it's so new, there's a lot of room for crime there. As that's something else I've written down, y'all. I hate to even talk about these things because it's not about making things a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't believe in those anyway. But crime in Year of the Rabbit, you have to think about it like having, something stolen and not even knowing it. That's possible. And you have to also understand that the rabbit, archetypally as an animal, is a very esoteric occult symbol and has been used as an occult symbol for a long time. It's associated, magicians pulling the rabbit out of the hat. So there's kind of like a sleight of hand or a sense of that kind of like a dark magic type of stuff, dark arts type of stuff. And also and this is something that you guys have to be so careful with this. And I don't support anything like this. Like these like old ancient, like Puritan / witch conflicts, like who's the witch, who's the Puritan, that is also something that kind of comes up, and it's usually not correct. It's usually like kind of a ploy or some kind of like power mechanism. It's like by maybe slandering another person, you have a chance of being dominant over them. There's a part of the rabbit that's very dark like that. And in order to work with that, we need to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in situations where that can happen. And also, we're not giving ammo to people to hold over us. So very, very careful about people you can quote unquote trust in Year of the Rabbit. This all gets like really alleviated in Year of the Dragon. Like this is not a very long running thing, but it's a little moment in the larger 12-year cycle where people maybe get a little bit tested about how easily they trust, and also can they identify someone who is not just dark, but distorting of truth, distorting of reality, somebody who wants to put others in dark places. Stuff like that does come up in Year of the Rabbit, and we just have to, the only way that we can really combat that, because, we can't always control things like that, is to just not let ourselves necessarily be at the disposal of another, or to not be someone else's pawn, to not be someone else's puppet, to not be someone else's, so independence, right? Very valuable in Year of the Rabbit. Okay, everyone, this is post-editing Sky coming in, editing this video. I just wanted to expound very briefly on this because I thought that it needed just a little bit more. I feel that a lot of people have like really strong ego trips in Rabbit, and you can definitely have like people with dark triad. And I think that the key, especially now that we've come past like 2020 and a lot of us have like a lot more independence really, or we've learned a lot more about curating a beneficial relationship with the self. I think that the most important thing is like not giving people the authority to put you in a dark place, or understanding like if somebody makes it clear that maybe they're not out for your best interest, or somebody makes it clear that maybe your well-being is not a priority, nonetheless their authority over you is a priority, we might really need to not delegate our authority over to those people. We might need to take our own authority back, or we might need to really break through any type of sort of false idea of love, or like, oh, this person loves me even though they're putting me through a dark situation. It's like clear that maybe they just have problems and like they still love me. Like these types of things are particularly strong in this year if we're not willing to have authority over ourselves, or if there are still like long-lasting ties of codependency. So it is hard for codependence, but as it always is, but like you also have the ability to just, I would say, reclaim your authority, reclaim your position, and just not really be subservient to another person's ill wishes. So it's pretty much that easy. We just really have to break any like ideas that like we are like bound to someone, or that despite someone's flaws, they're like, they love us even though they're like not wanting good things for us. Like those types of things are really up for endings here. But anyway, on with the video. So that segues me into the next difficult thing is traps and debt traps, Year of the Rabbit. So what's that old saying, like rabbit trap, right? Like trapping the rabbit, putting up the carrot, and then they go for the carrot and they get trapped. So that makes me think of like, wow, this beautiful house, it costs $5 million. Let me get a loan on that. And now we're stuck in it, okay? There are a lot of things. Watch out for things that are too good to be true. Watch out for things that are sugar-coated. Watch out for things that are too sweet. Watch out for things that are too good to be true. You get an email in your inbox that says, congratulations, you've won $5,000. Probably not right. It's simple stuff like that as well. So we have to be able to recognize if carrots are dangling, okay, in the Year of the Rabbit. And then for some other people, we have the assessing of confinement, okay? Because once the rabbit is also cherished as a pet, okay? So it's beautiful, it's stylish, it's something that people want to have and want to have, in a cage and kind of like confined. And they're also quite destructive. So there's this feeling of like Eight of Swords, right? Or maybe being like confined, but then also safe, okay? So safety versus confinement, the question of when like, okay, I have this house, at what point in time is this house like keeping me safe from the elements versus trapping me or keeping me away from other opportunities? And being able to adjust that sliding scale of how quote unquote safe we feel versus how quote unquote confined we feel is very important this year. Because we need a balance. We are not rabbits, we are humans, but this archetype comes in to make us think about the level of security, safety, confinement, and reservedness that we have in our life. I also think you all that, and this might be my own kind of like safety-oriented philosophy coming through, but I think that all forms of protection are good here. Insurance, like also shoes, okay, protecting your feet, no walking barefoot, especially in urban areas, but also even sometimes in rural areas. It's good to do sometimes, but then also, I will also tell you that parasite energy is stronger in Rabbit Year because of this dynamic of like confinement and then who's in charge of that confinement. It's a very kind of like hierarchical system. So it's good to be safe, okay, and certainly protection with any type of sexual activity, okay. Even things as simple as like drinking after someone else or, God, what else? I don't know. Using your credit card at unknown vendors, having people that you don't know in your house, going to people's home that you don't know well, just being kind of like someone who drifts or kind of blows in the breeze of someone else's force is what we don't want in Year of the Rabbit. Like being that person in the group of people who's just like, I'll do whatever anybody else wants to do, and you wind up at someone else's house like drunk or something, or, you know, not able to, like your phone's dead and you can't like get an Uber and you're like drunk and you can't drive and everybody else is like asleep or out of their mind. That's like the worst case scenario are situations like that. That's just a very random situation. But any situation where you don't have your own transportation, where you don't have your own control over the situation, should probably be avoided at all costs in Year of the Rabbit. Just because there's a certain like darkness or chaos energy that does climax in Year of the Rabbit. Also, it's very strong for psychic attacks and for also slander or any kind of like quote unquote manipulation. However, the people who are practitioners of that tend to just create their own sinkhole or create their own trap. So it's also not something that we want to really engage in either. It's better to be kind of like an independent observer who has control over where they are. That's really, I think, the best thing that we can have is to have control over the vehicle, to have control over where that vehicle is taking us, to have control over the house, you know, the keys to our own house. Like really, yes, people who are independent, who have their own homes, who have their own transportation, have a huge leg up in things that they don't even have to witness. That's not everybody, though. People who are reliant on other people, people who live with multiple people who don't have their own means of transportation. The challenges that you face this year may lead you to become more independent. And I will say, just by being a lighthearted person, being someone who wishes well to other people, who's hopeful, who does not wish harm on other people, will probably just give you enough of a protective aura wherever you're at. But we don't want to push it either. We don't want to take on unnecessary risks. Also, expectation. That feels really problematic in Year of the Rabbit. Like, and if you think about it, the rabbit is quite helpless, right? Like, it's just relying either on its own instincts or on its captor or its human keeper to like feed it. It doesn't really have, if it's in captivity or in confinement, it doesn't have like its own need to go after what it needs. And then if it's in the wild, it has a lot of like predators, okay, to worry about. So it's either like being in this place where, you know, you're vulnerable, but like doing your own thing, or it's being in this place where like you owe someone else for your security, and then they're like caretaking you. So yes, there is a possibility of an increase in debt or indebtedness, and we have to be careful with that. You know, borrower-lender relations, employer-employee relations, all of that kind of stuff will be very highlighted during Year of the Rabbit. Anything else more on the difficult side that I want to talk about before I get into some of the clear positives? The relationship with time. This is a good or bad thing. It just depends on what you make with it. If one has a hard relationship with time, like can't wake up at a decent hour, can't sleep at a decent hour, can't manage their time, that will start to really yield difficulty this year. And that main difficulty would just be like, oh my God, where's the time going? Oh my God, I'm just kind of like existing. And we have a big spotlight then shown on things like depression, mental illness, or anything that has us incapable or struggling to be healthy enough to like operate or function. That really comes up in Year of the Rabbit. On the other side of that, and this will kind of segue us into the positives, the positive intuitive messages of Rabbit Year. If you're a good time manager, and if you've been productive, and if you've been prioritizing important evolutions in your life, and that has been done through positive time management, rewards and benefits, prosperity, gain, fortunate things will happen to people who are good with time and people who are wielding time in a savvy way. Being savvy is another great thing about Year of the Rabbit. It's like niche things do really well. So like niche pursuits, anything that is in kind of a very specialized place is very good in Year of the Rabbit. Also, becoming very expert in a field, so having a type of expertise that isn't replicable is possible to achieve here. Also, getting very, like achieving things or coming through with things that are a perfect accessory to your like next goal. The theme of accessory is big in Rabbit because in the traditional folklore, in the Chinese folklore, it's the jade rabbit, and it is a beautiful accessory to the moon goddess. It is, in a way, a good luck charm of the moon goddess. It is something that the moon goddess holds near to her, okay, near to her person. So that's something that's really beautiful about the Year of the Rabbit. It's great for taking relationships to the next level. It's great for developing trustful relationships, people who are naturally compatible, people who are, like the jade rabbit to the moon goddess. It's like things, and I would definitely pinpoint that maybe as one of the biggest things is compatibility. Are things in your life compatible? Are your pursuits compatible? Are your relationships compatible? It's hard to achieve complete and total compatibility. There is a way that people can get very OCD with that, but I do feel there's a crisis of incompatibility. There's a crisis of maybe striving for things that can't exist in the same plane. Also being in a relationship with someone who is too similar to you and therefore incompatible, or someone who's too different. It's like these sort of like Goldilocks zone things with Year of the Rabbit, like not having too much work, but not having too little work, both resulting in exhaustion. Not having too much money, but not having too little money, both resulting in poverty. Not having too much food, not having too little food, both resulting in malnutrition. Okay, so finding the balances, finding the right amounts, finding the proper limits that lead you to create the right things, recipes, alchemies, putting things together, the way that certain flowers in the same habitat work together to, in the pollination cycle or in the ecosystem cycle. Plants also that are put together that go against each other or make the whole ecosystem messed up. Like this idea of also being placed in the wrong place, being in the wrong career, being in a situation that creates conflict, or knowing that you have bad vibes with someone, knowing that you always fight with someone, yet going into that expecting something different. All of that will really come up in Year of the Rabbit. And also the recipes or the opportunities to have better balances and better methods, better ways forward. Also, Year of the Rabbit, a great thing about it, it's a great energy for just assessing your karmic overtone. What's happening naturally? What's happening without you having to try that hard? That will really show you where you're at karmically. So like natural abundance, natural fortune, natural prosperity. That is all a part of Rabbit. It's like beautiful charms or beautiful, like good luck charms. It's the energy in its positive manifestation. It's the energy of treasured objects, treasured people, treasured experiences. For some people, really, really happy things can happen in 2023. Hope, resilience, opportunity, kindness from strangers. Also, seeing that you anticipated negativity and being positively, or being totally surprised by the way something ended up being positive when you thought it would be negative. Expecting rejection and actually being accepted. There is it's not a paranoia, but it's like a fear of bad things happening or a fear of the worst case scenario that actually comes from the previous 2 or 3 year cycle that gets shifted by experience in 2023. Like convincing yourself that you're not applicable for something and then being invited to it. And this like throws all of your previous self-assertions into question. Like, why am I asserting that I'm not applicable to something that I didn't even have to like apply to and I got invited? Why am I asserting that I'm not worth, a solid income? Why am I asserting that I'm not also worth independence or worth a positive relationship? Like, we definitely have to look at what we're inhibiting ourselves from or preventing in our life that makes actually no sense. And it's part of some kind of like, maybe like self-defeating attitude, or also the need for the point in which stability becomes confinement and we stop seeking new horizons, we stop seeking new chances just because of fear of rejection or a fear of also vulnerability has us preferring the security of the wrong situation instead of taking the chance, like the fool archetype, in the right situation. So that's like the crux of this year. And it's so positive for a lot of people to see that crux like undone, or to see that that was not correct. So that's one of the positives of this year, is like being surprised at how well you do, or being surprised at how things can just be way more abundant, prosperous, easy, well-refined. Also, the primary benefits of creating well-refined systems, creating optimized systems in your life, all of that really starts to come through now as a very profitable, or as a saving grace. Saving grace is a keyword for Year of the Rabbit. Also, bit by bit, that's a psychic information that I'm getting as well. Like, as in the way that the rabbit hops, it kind of like hops, hops, hops. These aren't like gargantuan, gigantic steps that we're taking or needing to take in 2023. It's not a sprint, although rabbits can do that too if they're in fear, like it's coming from Tiger, where a lot of sprinting happened. But in the natural state, it's more of a slow hop. So it's like hop, 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 bit by bit, little action by little action. We have like a huge chain of events, or a huge Six of Swords, big transition that happens. So try to take things more in hops than in like sprints or gargantuan actions. And that will also help with Year of the Rabbit. However, if you feel a sense of danger, or if you feel like something is off, you might have to like hightail it out of there. So that could also happen, especially if we've been struggling, okay? Or if you know that there are some things that aren't good for you in your experience that you're having to face, you might have to like hightail it away from some of those things. So that's kind of the dynamic that I'm feeling here. And also, we don't want to waste our energy. So if we come to a point where we know that we have to hightail it away from something, we don't want to be worn out at that point. We want to have the energy to do it. So again, it's a question of knowing when to use energy and when not to, understanding how to save energy, understanding how to save money, understanding how to save without also depriving, or again, Goldilocks zone is the best way we can think of that. There's also just a leveling as well. There's an equalization happening. There's especially in the way that you use your own energy, like not overusing here and then letting other things fall into disrepair, like really leveling out and equalizing some of the energies in your life. As for parts of the body and health with Year of the Rabbit, of course, we're looking at the ears, okay? The ears of the rabbit are the most prominent feature. So what we hear, okay, what we hear through the grapevine, what we're listening to, music. Actually, Year of the Rabbit is one of the most musical energies. So writing songs is great this year. Healing through music, therapeutic music. Also, these things can fall into shadow, though, like overuse of headphones or overuse of any type of sensory experience. So too much video games, too much TV, too much podcast listening, too much of anything would be very visible. So some of us might need dopamine detox, or might need sound detox. Or if you've been in silence a lot, now is a great time to start introducing more music or sound into your experience. The sound of nature, okay, being in nature and listening to it. There's a whole lot there in Year of the Rabbit, like understanding solutions by listening to nature, listening to your inner guidance, listening to listening to things, hearing people, hearing what they say, remembering what people say, memory, and the also thread that we can draw between what we've heard before and what we're hearing now, and being able to create or come to greater conclusions based on the math equation that this year actually is. So we need a good mind. So yes, we have the ears, okay? Take good care of your ears. Take good care of your hearing in Year of the Rabbit, because you've got a lot of maybe subtle things that you need to listen to, okay? Also, definitely the brain and the nervous system, for sure, in order to be able to perceive of these like subtle things. So being present, not being a zombie, not being out of it, not being asleep all the time, okay? Being present and being somewhat vigilant, okay? That can also turn into hypervigilance, which can become a problem. But I think for a lot of people, it would be great to take on like martial arts or yoga or something that coordinates and calibrates the nervous system, because we need that. We need that a lot, especially for the next oncoming year, where we can't afford little mistakes at all, okay? There's still a little bit of leeway, but we're kind of moving in a direction where things have to be very polished, all right? And I think in order to really polish things, we have to have an idea of the subtlety that a polished experience requires. So another thing, so we have the ears, we have the brain and nervous system. I would then also say that it is the digestive system. In fact, I did a bit of research, and rabbits actually have an extremely complex digestive system because over like centuries and centuries of evolution, they've adapted to a very poor diet, and they have a system basically where they like reserve a lot of the food in their system to like try to desperately to like extract nutrients, because they miss out on a lot of nutrients because of the quality of what they're eating. So that definitely connects back to one of the primary intuitive messages that I was talking about earlier, was like, what food are you eating? Also, are you getting the nutrients from that food? How is your nutrient absorption? How is the absorption of the body? I think that that's a huge thing for this year. And it just makes me think of like waste, and it makes me think of doing things in vain, like eating things that don't actually give anything to you, or craving things that are empty cravings, empty calories, empty things are something that we need to see. That's the shadow side of this year, are like empty nothingness, empty plastic. And I actually think that that's where a lot of people are maybe turning to religion or turning to faith to find more meaning and to find more significance, which I don't think is bad at all. Just be careful also with taking things to a certain extreme. I think that it's more of a physical thing too, like diet, like also location and proximity, and what we're doing with our day. And I definitely think that things like social media and things like video games and, you know, any of that stuff, I also think not for everybody is an empty thing. For some people, it's very significant. But be careful that you're not just filling time with filler materials, filler in the face, filler food, fillers, plastics, waste. Yeah, it's really prevalent, and it's at a certain high. On the plus side, maybe we will see more regulation, or more even just personal regulation by the individual, like refusing to participate as much with those things. That's a source of power that we all have as consumers, is to choose not to participate with certain things like that. However, at a greater, like, I don't know, legal or macro system, I don't know, it might happen, but I wouldn't rely on it, of course. But maybe there could be movements that might inspire some kind of action there for regulation. But self-regulation is also nice, isn't it? Like to not wait for some quote unquote bigger person to come and force things to happen, instead to like take the action ourselves. That is usually a much better way to not basically be an automaton in someone else's experience. Anyway, let's talk about some timelines, you all. Okay, let me just write down this timestamp, 3739. Okay, so timelines in the year of 2023 in Rabbit Year. Okay, so there are a lot this year. It's a lot more this year. This is kind of like the hopping, the way of the rabbit, like it's like these small increments. Incrementalism is good for 2023. Okay, January through March 2023. We have assessment, healing, new conclusions on past confusion. It's a very shadowy time, like shadow work in January through March of 2023. And this has already happened in my own experience, where things that I was confused about for a very long time are just no longer confusing. There just is clarity here. And I recommend that you don't beat around the bush with yourself. I recommend that you, like a rabbit, I don't recommend that you make things more complicated. Like, now we can just understand. That's the magical crowning jewel of the year of 2022, was that we got such a dose of like real view into our capacity. And that in and of itself, I think, has solved a lot of things. And we can just take those narratives now. We can just take those jewels, those morals, those lessons now. Lessons learned in January through March of 2023. Okay. Plans made, strategies. I think there's huge scale, for example, like legislation drafted during this time, regulation, anything that has that feeling of like putting plans on a pen and paper, having something ready to like go to vote or something is very strong. And this is not just at like a governmental level, but I'm talking even more in like personal lives, like people just waiting for that moment to like execute a totally different way of doing something. And maybe it's not through yet, maybe it's not happened yet, but it's like waiting in the wings and it's done and it's totally ready to go. And this can actually be leveraged in a very positive way. I mean, how awesome is it to have a plan? How awesome is it to have a better idea of how things can work? You know, this operating in a positive way is wonderful. And I recommend that you guys do that in January through March. Like, think about written plans for your life, 5-year plans, stuff like that. Not so bad. It's important also to understand that there will be ways that the universe meets plans, and it's not maybe going to be totally under our control, but it's nice to have an idea. Sure. I feel that very strongly in January through March. So also like estate planning or any kind of power that you have over your own experience, putting that into black and white is very good. Okay. Because it's nice to create a safety construct, right? It's nice to have things that are supported legally or are supported that do give you some kind of like real, tangible safety. Great to discover that with the first little injection of rabbit and not to use the whole entire year trying to get that stuff figured out too, but that's also fine. Because to give you guys some foresight, by Year of the Dragon in 2024, we cannot be thinking about, oh my gosh, who am I going to like will my car to? Oh my gosh, does my house even like have an insurance policy? Like, we cannot be thinking about those, like, I mean, we can, of course, but it's not going to feel nice to have the big stuff that's coming in 2024 under this like chaotic, like scattered kind of scrambled thing. So it's a very strong time of order, and actually 21, 22, and 23 all have been kind of building up to a certain degree of order. So I definitely recommend dealing with the monotonous, kind of mundane stuff that might have way more characterization, or what do I want to say instead? Way more meaning as a foundation in your life in the future than you might understand. So future work, future studies, future tripping is likely as well in this first timeline, because people are trying to think, well, gosh, what does it mean? What is the like chain link situation? What is the long-term cause and effect? And if your mind is already there, I mean, it's great. Like, let it happen for now, because even by 2024, like, we just won't have the like backup storage in the mind to really just ponder this stuff. Okay, so it's a good time for that. Like, I know it's kind of like overwhelming, but there's a shadow side to it. There's also like other people thinking, gosh, does somebody else deserve to have something? Why don't I have what somebody else has? This energy is very close to envy and like jealousy, and also because of that, it can be kind of like corrupted as well. So careful also about thinking like why somebody else has something, or why you're not the one making the decisions, or why someone else doesn't. Like there's a way that this mindset can be very attracting of darker energies. So just try to also keep it clean. And I just think it's so empowering for people to think, what is in my life instead of what's in other people's lives? Okay, can I heal my own body instead of thinking about what other people deserve? You know, that is a very strong place to be right now. Okay, next timeline, we have March through May. Okay, March through May of 2023. New visions, new beauty standards, different relationships with time, highly spiritual, and definitely there is action following the previous timeline that we were talking about and some of the ideas there. Okay, so this is already a big change. So the hopping, the small incremental stuff, especially if you've been working with health, with diet, with the health of your own body, and then also the foundation of your life in that first stage, January through March, already by March through May, it's a different stratosphere that you're in. And it gives you a lot of like leeway. Okay, if you're working well with the energy by March through May, you're going to feel more leeway. You're going to notice that you have more time. You're going to notice that you have more energy and compliments from other people. Because if you're doing things right, by March through May, some previous lifestyle will have died off. Okay, some previous way of being, some previous thing that you had in your life, like one of your own morals, one of your own habits, one of your own addictions might be gone by March through May. Also, it's like a healing of the face. And when I say face, so there's like a reputation, orientation. Yes, the rabbit's beautiful, right? So when I'm saying beauty standards, it's not about conforming to social beauty standards, but I do feel that people can really start to encapsulate and embody their higher potentials here. It's beautiful if we're using this energy right and we're not like obsessed with what other people have or obsessed with things outside of ourselves, which is one of the reasons why people get bad health and people get problems with the body, is because they get outside of themselves and they're not putting their energy into themselves. Getting your energy back into you, getting the right foods and the right diets and making the right choices, having better sleeping habits by March through May of 2023, especially by end of May, okay, you can have achieved some degree of transformation of body, of spirit, of finance, of a lot of stuff, but especially things that are just about the physical body. So healing a wound, healing an autoimmune disease, healing also mental health. Great time, January through May, but all of 2023, therapy, okay, psychoanalysis, even working with spiritual people, like working with astrologers, working with life coaches, working with anybody who can help you understand things from a different point of view can be very healing. So yeah, a new vision also about where you're going to be or what you're doing with yourself is likely in that March through May timeline. Okay, next timeline, we have May through July. Very short-term hops this year. May through July 2023. It feels like a marathon that I'm running with this video. Gosh, it's a lot to talk about. May through July. Yeah, structure checks. There, you might have to look at the structures of your house. You might have to look at... it's kind of like you make a choice and then that choice gets reviewed, or you choose something and then that comes under speculation or scrutiny. This can be a great thing. This can be like, because this structure check happens, the foundation then is made even stronger by reinforcing it. And had we not noticed that something was out, then it's like, might have been a bigger detriment in the future. It's good to kind of tackle things in May through July. It's good to also invest in longer term security. Like if you have the opportunity maybe to like redo floors in your house or something, or redo the things that are holding you up. Okay. Don't be afraid in like investing back into your business or investing also into your body, into your health, and things that are not just so arbitrary. Very positive during that time. May through July, also the either great blessing or difficult, this is great for some people, difficult for others, seeing the totality of your potential for some people. Also seeing like how we relate to that, or how our physical choices are or are not connecting with that. There's a lot of high level visibility in May through July of the people in our lives, of the way that all of that is connecting, and basically the overall outcome. So it's not stopping, you all. We've been having this for a while, but this is coming up again in May through July in a very strong way all this year, but especially in May through July. It's actually going to subside a little bit after July. It could be frustrating for some people. Probably good to cleanse the body, to detox, to make sure that you just have great foundations under you, because we don't want to get sidetracked by little things. We want to be able to see the big picture. We want to be able to see the larger thing that we're creating in our lives. And some people don't want to see it. Some people are like, I'd rather just have this like day by day security, regardless of if I know that in the long term that loses me something. This is very discouraging for some people, I understand, but it's also like truth serum. It's like, I can understand that in order to have more later, I might have to like have a bit less now. There are some like hard decisions coming up for people where it's like, gosh, this income means that I have comfort right now, but in the long term, there's an opportunity cost in May through July. And a lot of people, it's not like even discouraging. It's like, thank God I finally understand this, or thank God I can just make small little adjustments to fix this stuff. And it does. This time period, this May through July time period, in order to get what it wants us to get, you need strong systems. There's an everything all at once feeling. There is, star on the Christmas tree, cherry on the cake type of thing. It's kind of like completionist stuff, which may have also already been done in 2022 for some of you, but I think there's maybe another level of that. And then also the next beginnings that come after that. Okay, let's talk about the next timeline, which is August through November. Okay, probably the most important part of this year, August through November. There are things that we don't have to struggle with anymore. This is also for all of 2023, but this really comes through by then, where it's like, maybe even the question you were asking last year does not even have a place in your life right now anymore. Maybe the formula that you were revolving your life around for like a long time does not have a place anymore. So we have to change the formula. We have to, and maybe you've already done this. You would be very wise if you didn't even have to face this by August through November. But August through November shows a change in formula. And I think even other timelines in the year do too, but maybe it's all starting to create a different result by August through November. Maybe by August through November, there's like a feeling of, wow, this is a different alchemy. This is a different recipe. This is a different life situation. Also, August through November, we want to be strong, you all, okay? And strong actually isn't the right word, because strong is temporary. We need to be formidable. We need to be also calm in our knowing, August through November. So not being in this chaotic realm anymore where we're like believing different things about different people every day. We're in our own, justice archetype in our own mind, kind of weighing out, well, was that person right? Or was that person wrong? So you want to use like January through July to get clear about how you feel about things, understanding your narrative, understanding, at least in a somewhat comprehensible way, understanding also being able to tie bows on things, being able to finalize, complete things so that you're not putting a lot of your time to like, just sorting this stuff out unconsciously, which does lead to addiction, leads to all kinds of coping mechanisms when we let these things just kind of like broil around inside instead of getting them understood by ourselves and getting them completed. So August through November, for some people, not for everybody, has maybe a challenge, or it has even somebody with a different opinion, or for some people, even like exes can come back into the situation, or previous people from the past can come up in August through November, or you're required to enter a situation where you just can't be held back by that stuff anymore in order to honor that new situation. So in a way, the X comes back by you having to move on. Okay, there's weird kind of like Sphinx-like riddleistic stuff. And August through November just will not give any rewards for being like hung up on stuff from forever ago. That will be very confining by then. And you'll probably even know it like by now, like by the time you're listening to this video, like, yeah, the past is confining, or I can't keep using the same guidelines of the past to solve the present problems. So new muscle memory, great to take up new exercises, new training, new forms, new languages, and anything that helps to build new connections in the brain will be important, because I'm feeling August through November of 2023 is like, oh my God, I just keep thinking about the same things. I just keep like going over the same things. And it's like not having a purpose to like be revisiting some of this stuff if we're not creating these new connections. So if the old connections aren't serving a purpose, that becomes hard because they're still there, and they will still be used if they're still there. So new experiences are important in August through November. New people, new relationships, new things. And especially for my people out there, Capricorns, Scorpios, Cancers, who are like who like need to be experts or need to like not be in a place where they like don't know the code automatically. It's hard because it's like, yeah, when we first start, we're not usually experts. There is a feeling for everybody of having to learn new things, and that's going to help heal you in a lot of ways. But it's very meaningful. It's a very meaningful time slot, August to November of 2023. And I would already start the ball rolling for learning new things and creating new pathways in your life, in your brain, in your spiritual journey, whatever. And finally, we have December through February, December 2023 through February 2024. Arrival, we have like setting up new bases. We have setting up a new, there's another level of new systems and new procedures and new complements, new ways. Okay. And that can only really feel good if we've really solved some of the previous problems, and if we have gone to bat for ourselves, if we have well-functioning systems already. So everything kind of builds up for this December to February timeline where we're getting close to entering into Dragon Year, which will have a lot of people at like climax stories, height of their potential, standing in really, really strong places, which is kind of scary, but also, you know, one of the reasons why a lot of us are doing any of the stuff we're doing right now too. I would work for this timeline. I would work for having things settled for this timeline. I would work now early in 2023 and through mid and later 2023 to allow December through February to be okay, to allow December through February to function and thrive, because it needs to. And that is really probably crossing the bridge for a lot of people, or being in that Goldilocks zone of like enough security, but not too much to where we can't like have freedom, you know, getting all these balances right, getting these Goldilocks zones right to have really good life experiences. Also, if you have anything in your life that needs like a flight, okay, so yes, physically flying in airplanes, air travel, but also in a more symbolic way, like taking flight, leaving the nest, being above ground, being higher in your spiritual journey. That's what Dragon is going to be about, okay? And it is about fun. It's about a slight degree of risk and a slight degree of also like just lust for life, okay, in Dragon. That's not Rabbit, but Dragon will be about that. So I just want you guys to know as you're preparing that yes, Rabbit Year does not have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be over the top. It does not have to be insane. And it needs to be systematic, and it needs to be clear and optimized so that we can have wiggle room in 2024. And so that by December through February, we have the confidence and coordination and the clarity and the function at a physical body level and at a also systematic level in our life to do the stuff of the lifetime. Again, Dragon Year, and even the following years, like 24, 25, and 26, it's very much like zest of life. It's much more present-oriented, and it's good to deal with the past and the future in 2023 as much as we can. So there's a limit to what we can even do there, but just as it relates to our own self-understanding, our own self-treatment, it's good to get stuff in order so that we can really thrive. And then again, December through February, you just want to really see, I think that transformation has happened and that some degree of healing has happened. And it's very rewarding. But a lot of us will also have to like really stand strong in the choices we've made and in the stories that we are creating in our life. Okay. So anyway, everyone, I'm going to conclude there. I hope you enjoyed this video about Year of the Rabbit. Be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel below if you like these types of videos. Turn on those bell notifications and thumbs up this video to help it get out there. Also, my channel is on Patreon below where I do weekly tea chats and a lot of premium content. It's a great value. Come and check it out and have a happy Year of the Rabbit ahead. Happy 2023. Much love. Bye.